Shall I start?
Yeah, Manika ji, you can start. We are live.
Good afternoon and a very warm welcome. It is my pleasure to welcome all eminent guests, speakers, and the audience for this bilateral India-Uzbekistan summit. We have amongst us His Excellency Manish Prabhaji, Ambassador of India to Uzbekistan, and Ms. Ritu Berry, Ace Fashion Designer, Cultural and Tourism Ambassador of Uzbekistan to India. A very warm welcome and thank you for giving us this opportunity. School of Creativity Rishihood University is the only school of creativity in India within a comprehensive university offering graduate and postgraduate programs in design, visual arts, and performing arts. School of Creativity, along with India Uzbekistan Entrepreneurial Development Center, Uzbekistan, is trying to work jointly to promote creative entrepreneurship, innovation, and transformation through new technologies. This summit is an effort to jointly achieve unprecedented economic growth by promoting creative entrepreneurship. As rightly put in by Ms. Berry in the Luxury Symposium 2019, wherein Uzbekistan was the country partner, India and Uzbekistan are like two siblings, far away, and we are trying to bring them together. A country's strength lies in the ability to draw on its prolific tradition, craftsmanship, culture, and heritage. Both Uzbekistan and India have strong reflections of culture and craftsmanship, which is truly unique. Through this platform, I am certain that we will assimilate the best values and thoughts of both the countries. On this note, may I now invite our co-founder, Mr. Sahil Agarwal, to present the vision for Rishihood University. Sahil Agarwal, co-founder Rishihood University, co-founder Rashtriya School of Public Leadership. After completing his BTech from IIT Delhi, he further pursued MA in diplomacy. He has also been a visiting scholar of urban governance at Indiana University, Bloomington, United States of America. He is passionate about institution building and strategic initiatives. May I invite Sahil to present the vision of Rishihood University. Over to you, Sahil.
Thank you very much, Professor Walia. I congratulate the School of Creativity and you for having organized this event, and thanks all the speakers who've joined us, because this is an important milestone, not just as a event, as a very young university being able to organize such a thing, but also aligning very well with what's the vision of our university, because you've asked me to share a bit about what we are, why we started this, and where we intend to go. So, having a holistic education, that's a very natural goal for education, for educators, for institutions, for students. So, when we say, or when we aspire to have holistic education, we often question what is it that we mean by getting holistic education, and we felt that let's identify what kind of outcome should the students have if they are educated in a holistic way. And we thought that in our context as Rishihood University, the students should become innovative, they should create some innovation, and they should have a social impact. Their being on this planet should create a social impact. If these two outcomes we can generate in our students, then we would think that we have obtained holistic education as a goal. And how do we get this impact and innovation as an outcome? To get that, we feel that three characteristics, if we can build in every student. So the first is creativity. If all the students can become creative, they can apply their mind to generating new things, new ideas. The second is if they can become entrepreneurial, so that whatever they do, it has a business value or a social value to others. And the third is leadership. so that they are capable of becoming more, doing more than what they were doing earlier. So if we have a combination of these three characteristics of creativity, entrepreneurship, and leadership, I think we would be able to create an innovation and impact atmosphere, and that would automatically lead to a holistic education. So I think this event, which is spot on in realizing our vision of becoming creative entrepreneurs in a bilateral sense. So we often think of creativity as separate and business management, entrepreneurship as separate, and then bilateral events, diplomacy as separate. This event has combined these three very primary objectives for any nation's development, any society's development, any individual's development. And unless we can find resonance in these three seemingly different but highly aligned and highly supplementing objectives, we won't be able to achieve our vision of providing a holistic education. As a new university, we are very focused that we should be able to create a social impact, which means that we should be able to collaborate within our community and with the world at large to inspire this confidence that our young students, our artists, our entrepreneurs, our cultural ambassadors have a lot of value in the society, and enable them so that they can lead the creativity of the future, and that would automatically create a positive social impact in India as well as in other nations. As a new university, we are very proud that even before our formal launch, we have been able to collaborate with 7 different countries, whether it is for student exchange, for faculty exchange, for knowledge exchange, such as this, for scholarships, for bilateral relations, for research. So that gives us immense confidence and immense pride that as we start our institutional journey, we are stepping into an era where India is also increasingly becoming capable of taking a global responsibility. India's relations with the world are increasingly becoming stronger, more valuable, more productive. And in that backdrop, we as just a new institution, just a university, don't want to remain a teaching and research kind of place. We want to become an institution which actually creates a positive outcome for the society. And I think this event is a testimony to what we want to do. So I congratulate again the School of Creativity for organizing this, and I look forward to rest of the proceedings for this event. Welcome everyone.
Thank you, Sahil. Holistic education, creativity, entrepreneurial skills, leadership equals to social impact. And to summarize, this is what Rishihood University is all about. To take this forward, may I now invite Dr. Sanjeev Chaturvedi, Advisor to Government of India and Uzbekistan Entrepreneurial Development Center. Experience of 31 years in corporate and academic field, he has a good amount of global exposure, traveled more than 30 countries for industry and academic purposes. Who better than this to talk on the scope of bilateral contribution for creative entrepreneurship? Dr. Sanjeev Chaturvedi ji, please, over to you.
Thank you, Manika, and a very cold afternoon from Uzbekistan to all the dignitaries and all the listeners. It's around 3 degrees right now. It is warmer as per Uzbekistan, but it is cold as per India. So let me first speak about a little bit about the center, the concept of this center, and then maybe I'll give you some ground realities like a reporter from Uzbekistan. This center, India-Uzbekistan Entrepreneurship Development Center, is the 5th center which is established by Ministry of External Affairs, and 4 were in Southeast Asia. This is in the Central Asia, the only one in Central Asia. 5 more are being set up in Africa, starting with Rwanda, the capital Kigali. The focus was to have a partnership between the governments on enhancing the entrepreneurial aspects of the 2 countries. What we have learned, we can share with the other countries, and also it's a learning process for our countries also, and our entrepreneurs also. So this center was, although inaugurated in 2018, but we were supposed to come into 2020, but because of pandemic, there was a problem, and now in last October I joined here as an advisor. So we are planning that we will be shortly starting an entrepreneurial lab here. So there are two aspects. We have already sent a lot of books on entrepreneurs for the library. We are setting up a library. It's in the final stage. And we also got a lot of equipments for setting up a computer lab from Ministry of External Affairs. And we are closely coordinating with the embassy here. And Ambassador Sir is very, very supportive for this entire project. And most likely in April, we'll be inaugurating the entrepreneurial lab, you can say. We are also starting, we have already started the 75 weeks of 75 years of India independence celebration. So this will become an important milestone for us also to start that immediately in April. The challenge which I could see here is that when I came to Uzbekistan, many of you may have visited, but those who have not visited, it is basically, it gives you a different picture here. When we hear about Uzbekistan in India, we just think about the Silk Route and the what type of dry fruits are available there and what type of dresses are there. But you will be really shocked when you enter here, because entire retail, entire banking services, entire pharma services is headed by a woman in the shop, in the frontage. But the negative part is that the entrepreneurial aspect is not so good in the women, because they didn't have that courage to go and start their own business. The economy just started opening in last 3-4 years, and now there is special schemes for women for getting loans, getting a subsidy, getting some grants from the government. And also because women has been a part of business processes, so they know how to run a business. So now they are getting the responsibility to start their own aspects of how to enter into various ventures. So this is the city side. When you go into the rural side, I have been traveling in the last 2-3 months to rural sector also, and that is different. You will find it is very well connected by roads, because it has the Soviet infrastructure. Electricity is in the smallest town. That's another plus point of this country. Only thing is that they are still very dependent on the government, I would say, loans, and their banking is starting to grow up to become mature, but it is not as mature as we thought about. Poor connectivity of IT is a problem here. So just to mention here, we are also have connected our regional offices through this channel, and many of our members of the Chamber of Commerce of Industry are listening to this session also. So connectivity is a big problem. We still have a 3G connectivity here. So, and India is looking for 5G now. It is to be launched shortly in India. So this is in a scenario where we have to focus on the entrepreneurial aspect of the people. They are very keen to start a business. They are keen to have a bilateral joint ventures, or maybe investment or export or import. They are very enlightened, and they are very keen to start that business. So there is some aspects which we have to look into, and which are positive and which are negative. Now, when we think about the rural entrepreneurs, there can be a lot of, like we had in Mansukh Prajapati, when we had this Mitti Cool concept in Gujarat, where he made a fridge which is not run by electricity in 2,000 rupees. The same concept has to be also shared here to make them available, make them aware about the raw material which is available here, skills which are available here, and also maybe incorporate that with the entrepreneurial aspects. And also there are a lot of World Bank projects and also Asian Development Bank projects here, which is giving a lot of funding in rural sectors also. So the focus of the government is not only on the entrepreneurial aspect, but focusing on the rural aspects, where it's still about 80 to 90% of the population lives. Second, which is the focus of the government for entrepreneurs, is on the women entrepreneurs. So that is another focus area where our people can, or our entrepreneurs can look into. There is also a lot of young people in who are, I am teaching in some of the Uzbek universities. There are international universities coming into India, into Uzbekistan. Two, Sharda and MIT already have a campus here. There are two more universities from India coming to Uzbekistan. The good point is that the young generation is looking for English because there is a language barrier. Either you know Russian or you know Uzbek. So now they are looking forward to having to learn English. And the quickest the quickest, I would say, the batch fills is of English language here. You announce it, and in 3 days the batch is full. So that is the keenness of the young generation to learn English and become a part of the world economy as such. Another thing which I would certainly like to focus here is on the education part. Students are not only learning English, but they are also taking evening classes on the how to run a business. And because I teach entrepreneurship, so many of the students, after the classes, they also come and take help, and I am, whatever I help I can do. And they are looking for some of the small ventures to start, right from the textile, agribusiness, maybe packaging. That is another important aspect which is coming. Recently, we had a very very significant contribution from Amul for the dairy products here, how we can develop the Amul concept here in Uzbekistan. And a lot of women's and the young generation students are also participating a lot in these rural aspects also. Another thing before I close is that we should be looking into some of the aspects of collaboration in the like products which are not pharmacy, but they are also looking for like something like Dabur, Baidyanath, or which is Ayurvedic in nature. Yoga is very popular here already with the effort of our present Prime Minister, and also there are cultural centers across Uzbekistan where yoga is taught almost free of cost. There is a very small registration fee. So they are also now getting exposed to Ayurveda and the other aspects. So they are very keen in having this, apart from the medicinal part thing, the medicinal plants like stevia cultivation, and where a lot of companies have started coming in India from Uzbekistan to Uzbekistan from India. And Ayurvedic is becoming a natural, cosmetics are becoming a fad here. So girls are looking forward to this type of collaboration or to start their own business. So these are some of the sectors which I could understand in the last 4 or 5 months of my stay here. And I am very sure that some of the we had one session in last month where Manika was also there in the women entrepreneurship. A lot of people have started joining hands even after the February 8th, 22nd or 23rd session. So just within a month or so, there is a lot of interaction between the entrepreneurs in India and entrepreneurs in Uzbekistan. So they are very keen to learn and keen to come into the contact with the right people. So this is a small, I would say, scenario I would like to share with you all, and we can see. And our embassy is very supportive in any type of information required by any entrepreneurs in India. And also now with the COVID coming down in Uzbekistan, it is not so aggressive like in India. So the tourist visa is still not open, but business visa is open. So we are expecting some of the delegations coming from April onwards. So we look forward for any entrepreneur who wants to connect with Uzbekistan entrepreneurs, and we can also facilitate their visa and other formalities from our centers. So this is, in a nutshell, I wanted to give you a picture of what is happening in Uzbekistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjeev. Indeed, very insightful, and congratulations on all the vision you have for the Entrepreneurial Development Center. And again, to summarize, the concept of entrepreneurial lab is highly commendable. So in every respect, now what I say is that the transition in Uzbekistan represents the novelty in the post-Soviet space. And as Dean School of Creativity and an eminent member for Rishihood University, I see a lot of scope in mobilization of skill development training programs with the use of indigenous resources are some of the areas which Rishihood University would like to collaborate and take it forward. On that note, may I now request Ms. Ruma Malik to give her insights into creative enterprise and collaborative community. So Ms. Ruma Malik is the Vice Chairman, Buying Agents Association. Her vision is to promote and expand the industry of buying agents in India. Ms. Ruma Malik, over to you.
Thank you, Manika. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's an honor to be part of this august gathering. And because I represent the buying agents in India, first I'd like to just give a short introduction of what we do, because a lot of people may not know what a buying agent means. And basically, to put it in a nutshell, there are importers, there are exporters. But because we are in a global village, a buying agent is a bridge between businesses all over the world and businesses in India. And what we do is facilitate, coordinate, provide expertise, provide communication services, etc., so that the whole process of business, the whole process of industry becomes easier. That is our expertise. Today, I'd like to speak as an artist. I'm from the Parsons School of Design. As a student of history, because I think everything that's happened before will happen again. And as a woman, a business person in India. To understand the challenge of creative collaboration and entrepreneurship between our two great cultures and countries, I would just like to give a few historical references. Sahil spoke of the Silk Route, and I'd like to speak a little more about entrepreneurship during the Silk Route days. In the old days, and we've seen trade and culture flourish through land routes and via the sea. Traders, travelers, and adventurers became the sources of information. They visited many countries, they saw, they reported, and they took back to their countries information wherever they went. The conquerors came, and with the conquerors came hybrid cultures, because when they came and they settled in distant lands, they brought with them a certain art, a certain culture, and then the land that they stayed in or visited developed a totally different form of expression because of the marriage of two different breeds of art. The Great Silk Route has been legendary in how it connected all the great empires of the past and provided one of the greatest forms of cultural exchange that went all the way from the east to the west and influenced people through centuries. We all know that art, architecture, music, craft, philosophy were all part of this exchange. And the great cities of Uzbekistan, like Samarkand, Bukhara, Khiva, Tashkent, etc., were right in the center of this blossoming oasis. Till today, we see their influence in our embroideries, wood carvings, paper mache, carpets, and many of the handicrafts that today we adopt as our own. If the Great Silk Route was the main instrument of influence in those days, the traders were these incredible entrepreneurs who risked their lives and limbs as they traveled and traded from country to country. And if that was the main instrument of centuries ago, what can we assign today as the main instrument of trade? In my opinion, one of the greatest achievements of man in the 20th century is technology. Technology is the instrument that invades every facet of our life today. Professor Sanjeev just spoke about the fact that Uzbekistan still lacks in technology. However, this is one instrument which influences everything else. While India is synonymous with the term made by hand, which celebrates our crafts, our artisans, and our handicraft industry, on the other hand, computer programming, software engineering, and technical skill are also very much part of our industrial growth. Indians have been traders and entrepreneurs throughout history. But while machines can reproduce, they cannot replace the human mind, the human creativity, and the processes of entrepreneurship that are at the core of human development. Today, the art world is embracing these two worlds of creativity and creating bridges between traditional craft and the world of technology as it defines our sensibilities in the urban world. The art of technology drives every facet of the design world and entrepreneurship today. Be it automobile design, urban planning, industrial design, photography, digital printing, 3D computer printing, CNC machines. It's hard to imagine a world without being aided in some form or the other by technology. And yet, it's equally hard to imagine a world without creative brilliance of the human mind. Entrepreneurship is one such facet of the human mind and spirit, which at least is today impossible to replicate. It is the gateway to human development, while collaborative creativity is the base of human endeavor. Technology can perhaps be likened to the great Silk Route of the past, and we have to figure out how we can use it and promote it and bring to the people of our own country and of Uzbekistan and to the world at large the benefits of technology today. The World Wide Net has made all of us global travelers. There are no borders. There are no distances. Exchanging ideas has never been easier. Resourcing information and bringing minds together is one of the biggest assets of technology. Just look at us today. We sit in cyberspace and ideate our visions of the future. It is often said that the way to becoming a millionaire is simply to have a good idea. That's all it takes sometimes. Facebook, Oyo Hotels, Airbnb, Uber, cryptocurrency, these are all testaments to this idea. But what all these businesses also have in common is that of the young mind. A mind that is free to explore, a mind that is free to experiment. If silk, silver, and spices were the currencies of the past, new forms of global currency is being created even as we speak. With India and Uzbekistan both having some of the youngest populations in the world, it is the young who will be the entrepreneurs of tomorrow. It is the young we have to focus on. The rules and forms of business are changing. And the process of change has never been faster in the history of mankind. As the young in both our countries are getting ready to be at the helm of our economies, our governments, financial institutions, educational institutions, and trading partners must engage to provide support wherever required. We must encourage cross-pollination of ideas, support new businesses, new visions, something that we've never even thought possible, may be possible tomorrow. We must create resources for education and training. That is the key to tomorrow. India and Uzbekistan have had a long history of association in trade and cultural exchange. But the fusion that can be created by the amalgamation of art, craft, commerce, and technology will be instrumental in giving the youth of our countries a new territory word, and never has the world changed as fast as what we are witnessing today. It is therefore time to celebrate technological innovations, collaborate at every level, and mark this moment in time for future generations. What I do want to, I'm so happy to hear about the Center for Entrepreneurship, which has already been set up in Uzbekistan. And I hope that the young people of India, the young people of Uzbekistan have a platform to share ideas. Old businesses may continue, but it is the new businesses, it's the new thoughts, it is the new tomorrow that we are looking at. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Rumaji. This is indeed very beautifully said and articulated that gateway to human development is creativity through creativity and entrepreneurship. Very rightly said, a mind that is free to explore and to experiment is the way forward. Thank you so much for such beautiful words and such lovely insights. We have now amongst us our guest of honor, Ms. Ritu Berry. Ms. Ritu Berry, the name which is the synonymous with the explosive globalization of India's fashion industry. A pioneer in her field, she launched her label in 1990. She was the first Asian designer to head a French fashion brand and was anointed India's fashion queen. Time magazine declared her the first lady of fashion in her country. BBC credited her with resounding headline, Indian fashion takes a hold in the form of Ritu Berry. Ms. Berry entered the International Privy League of Power Dressers when she dressed the likes of Bill Clinton, Nicole Kidman, Prince Charles, and Ivana Trump, to name a few. In 2015, Ms. Berry launched the Luxury League, a non-profit foundation established to enhance brand India globally through its art, craft, and brands to reimagine the luxury in an Indian context. She has written 5 books, the latest to trace the journey of a restless mind through the world of design. In 2016, Ms. Berry was appointed as advisor to Khadi and Village Industries Commission, Government of India. Ms. Berry was appointed the Cultural and Tourism Ambassador of Uzbekistan in India by the Ministry of Tourism in Uzbekistan in 2019. In 2019, Ms. Berry was also announced the advisor to the Surajkund Mela, world's largest craft fair with over 1 million visitors a year. Ms. Berry was also appointed Chief Design Consultant for TriFed, Tribes India, by Ministry of Tribal Affairs, Government of India. In 2020, A postal stamp has been issued to honor Miss Berry's work under the Series of Indian Fashion by the Philately Department, Government of India. It's an honor to welcome ma'am. Heartiest welcome, ma'am, and thank you for giving us your time and opportunity on this platform. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Manika. So I've always been very proud of being an Indian, especially being a creative person and having all this inspiration in a country like ours, which is so endowed with so much for art, craft, culture. And I'm equally honored to be the cultural ambassador for Uzbekistan. I believe that the countries are very similar in many, many ways. And it's been 2 years since I've been working with Uzbekistan, and I had the great honor to go for a very big international art fair in Uzbekistan, where the Honorable President had put together a beautiful consortium of people associated with craft. And it was a real learning for me to understand how the highest offices of Uzbekistan had valued their culture and their art and their craftsmanship. From the smallest of small craftsmen, they were there to exhibit their talent to about 87 odd international brands, and different countries had participated. So I came back with that as a great inspiration, because in our country, whether it's our arts and crafts, whether it's our tribal art, I think we have so much to offer to the rest of the world. And I do believe that we had a very beautiful symposium, and Uzbekistan was the country partner, and it was a huge success because India loved the ikkats, hand woven ikkats, the beautiful craft from Uzbekistan, and Uzbekistan loved what we had to offer. So there was a huge synergy between the khadi and ikkat, and I think we've got a lot to work on together, and we've got a lot of scope to do a lot of important things between the two countries. So thank you, Manika, for having me here, and it's a real pleasure to be on a podium with everybody here.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. May I now request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Kamalesh Mishra, to give us a little insight about creative entrepreneurship. Dr. Kamalesh Mishra is a PhD in economics from Northeastern University. He did his advanced training in financial management from Harvard Institute for International Development, Harvard University, USA. Professor Kamalesh Mishra currently holds the position of Vice Chancellor of Rishihood University, Sonipat. He was the founding Vice Chancellor of Oro University, Surat, and also the Vice Chancellor of Ansal University, Gurgaon. Professor Kamalesh Mishra is a reputed strategist and an innovative leader in conceiving, organizing, and managing educational and research organizations. He combines in him qualities of vision, building, organizing, motivating, and leading teams to perform at their peak level. He is well regarded as a thoughtful leader and speaker on the formulation and implementation of corporate strategies, knowledge, and innovation management. Professor Mishra is known for creating some of the most successful business models in the education sector without compromising on the ethical dimensions of teaching as a profession. He is a team builder and has created institutions which are talked about due to their work culture and the free environment of academic pursuits. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Manika. Thank you so much. And I'm so happy to be here. And the topic that you have given me is more on creative enterprises and how they can be used to strengthen the economy as a whole. I'm an economist by training, so I think I will be able to add a little bit on this segment. I think one of the things that we need to think about to start with is that the overall contribution of the creative, what we call as creative enterprises, to the GDP is very, very, very small. Even at a world level, its contribution is only about 7%, 7 to 8% of the total GDP. Fortunately, what that tells us is that there is tremendous scope. There is a lot of space left for creative industries to actually contribute to the overall development of the world economy, which can be done through different countries. Every country has its own way of doing this. First, I think as I think about it, and I'm sharing these thoughts. There is certainly a difference between what we call as a creative enterprise or creative industry and sort of the regular industries. And I think the importance lies in the fact that a lot of creative industries are actually based on intellectual property rights, and is the creation of the mind that really matters in creative enterprises. So the way that one begins to look at is that why do we feel that these kind of enterprises will have so much to contribute as we move ahead in this world as we are right now? First, I think creative enterprises are not basically dependent on the kind of resource base that is required by traditional industry. The amount of capital or the other kind of resources that are required are not really required by creative enterprises. And that's the beauty of creative enterprises, because the resources that are required for creative enterprises are actually spread across the world, everywhere. All human beings are creative. And that's one of the major differences between what we call as a creative enterprise and an enterprise which is dependent on petroleum that is coming from the Middle East. So normal resources are concentrated in different parts of the world, and therefore industry seems to grow based on where the resources are. So we cannot be, we don't have diamond mines. They're in Africa. So that's where it is going to be, and we can't do much about it. But we have the creative instinct to cut and polish the diamond. And therefore, 80 to 85% of the world's diamond is cut and polished in Surat. So if you buy a diamond ring in Belgium, most likely it has been cut and polished in Surat, right? So I think that's the one way of looking at the creative industries, that there is so much of potential because it is basically dependent on how much of the creativity can be harnessed from the population itself, because it is evenly spread. There are no poor countries and there are no rich countries in terms of creativity. It's an equalizing factor between all nations. Whereas when we look at other kind of resources, then we say that, okay, there are developed countries, there are developing countries, there are poor countries. And this classification, a typical economic classification, is based on the availability of resources, which unfortunately is not in our hands. It is given by nature, by God. We just happen to occupy an area of the world, which we call India, which does not have certain types of resources. That's just a chance, right? Because in the end, if you see what we call India or what you call as United States, it's our own conception of what we could occupy and say it's mine. It's like a tribal culture, right? Now, so if we look at this whole concept, that if resources that are required to enhance the productivity of creative enterprise are evenly distributed all across the world, then what is it that we should do given the resources are evenly distributed? I think one of the things that we see across the world, only 70% of contribution is there of creative industries to the world GDP. Even nationwide, it's not, since the average is about 7% for the world, we may be 5%, 6%, or 8%, or 12%, somewhere in this range, which is a very, very small segment, very small amount. And I think what is important now for us is to begin to think how we increase the share of creative enterprises in the overall contribution of the GDP that is produced. So what is it that is going to make it happen? How is it going to happen? The mere fact that we are only 7% across the globe means that we don't seem to have done much, right? So I think there is and I want you to think about this. I think these three terminologies, that is the creativity, the innovation, and entrepreneurship. Now, if the contribution of creative industry is only 6 to 7%, then is there a missing link between these three terms? That people could be very creative, but that creativity cannot be converted into innovation, effective innovation. And even if we reach the stage of effective innovation, can we actually transform that into a commercial venture? Can it be used towards wealth creation, right? So I think we are forced to actually look at the linkages between these three terms. And I think it would be a very interesting research to see what is the relationship between these three in different countries. And I believe that wherever between nations, if you find in one country that the relationship between these three terms are very, very strong, I feel that we will find a greater share of contribution that is made to the GDP from the creative enterprises. So that's something that would be a good area to study. Now let's think of this whole concept that, okay, so what do we do? How do we move to the next stage? Whether is it possible for us to create an environment where we can have these kind of or sort of creating a culture. That's what I was looking at. Is it possible for different countries to create a culture of creativity and create a culture of innovation and create a culture of entrepreneurship? Because if we cannot create a culture, then it becomes very difficult. Now, I think in the last couple of years, we are seeing that there is a lot of thrust. And as an economist, what I look at is that I think all industry go through a stage of maturity. And I think a large segment of our conventional industry is going through a phase of maturity. That is, the enhancement or the contribution to GDP from those industries is not going to be as high as it used to be in the last 2 decades. Leave aside the IT, because IT I'm including that into the creative industries. Now I feel that if you look at this, that a lot of the traditional industry is going to either stagnate or decline, then there have to be other segments that need to take place. And I'm finding that now a lot of work or a lot of contribution that is taking place is happening from the creative enterprises. Creative enterprises are beginning to contribute more and more and more in the developmental economies. I think it's also important for us to think of creative industries which have a more sustainable model than the conventional industry. So we expect that they would be able to last for a longer period. That is, their age of maturity is very, very long, and they are more prone to make some transformation among themselves to keep growing rather than the traditional industries like steel and auto and other sectors. So I think it would be very interesting for us to see how much contribution or how much can we actually take out of the creative industry, because the margin is too much. There is too much untapped potential from the creative industries that we have not focused on. So I feel that if we can somehow begin to start looking at creative industries as the major drivers and source of wealth creation. And that's one of the problems that people have when they start thinking that, oh, it's for small entrepreneurs, it's craft, it's painting, it's this, it's that. I think that's the wrong way to think. The idea is that how do these, whatever you call as non-conventional creative enterprises, how can we increase their share in the overall creation of wealth in the world? And I think if you look at, for example, just art or a painting, I think there are paintings that have created so much wealth for people. It's not that they have not created, right? So anything, fashion, designing, film, games, any of these things, software, art, everything has to be looked from a point of view of a business enterprise. And I think the mindset of the people has always been that, I'm doing this as I just need to pass my time. So I'm doing this as a passing time, just to spend my time, And in the process, I make a little bit of money, which is my pocket money, and I do some shopping, right? I think we need to change that thought process. Creative industries are people who are in creative enterprises, creative segments, need to begin to think of business ideas. It's a business idea, and we need to make money, and we need to create wealth, right? As long as we are going to be in that segment, that, oh, this is just I started this as a hobby, and I think we need to get out of that mindset. So always my thinking, those people who are in the creative areas, yes, there are some people who are doing an exemplary job, and I don't want to say everybody is not doing a good job. There are a lot of people in the creative industry who are doing very, very well, and they can be role models, right? But we also, I think from an academic point of view, I would like, for example, to have a compilation of those creative people who can demonstrate a business idea can be converted into a wealth creating enterprise. We don't have much. We may have a couple of things written here, there, but if I say, I want to look at this book of case studies of 15 most successful creative people and what they did, right? So I think it's time for all of us to begin to think, whether it is across boundaries of a country or within the boundaries of a nation, we need to start changing the mindset of the people, right? And all these three elements, creativity, innovation, and enterprise and entrepreneurship, have to be linked properly. Because I feel that these are the three stages, especially in the segment of creative industries. These are the three different stages of how we can create wealth at different stages. And that's important, that we create this kind of a link between these three elements. A great idea is worthless if it doesn't create wealth, or if it cannot be commercialized, or it cannot create any social value, right? I'm okay to say that, okay, here is a great idea. It doesn't create any economic wealth, but it creates a great deal of social wealth. And that's as good. There's no problem. But I think unless we take these ideas from different, and we need to nurture these from the very young age. So, all creative areas, whether they are being taught in the universities or what Dr. Chaturvedi is doing, he always does a good job anyway. So, now holding hands of students there and trying to get them to conceptualize an idea, to make the idea really happen, and to give them an opportunity where you say, okay, take the risk, go on with you, we'll do it. I think we can do it together. I think that's important. I feel that if we can work on these ideas and focus on wealth creation rather than a hobby, and we need to move from a mindset of a hobby to a mindset of an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur does not go and do a business or does not put money into the business because it's a hobby for him, right? He does it because he wants to become rich and he wants to make other people rich. And let me tell you, it is okay to be rich, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong. So we need to get out of that socialist mindset. It's okay to be rich. Please become rich and then take care of those people who are not rich. That's fine. That's the only way that the world is going to function. So my suggestion would be that there is tremendous potential in creative industries in the world, everywhere. 7% of world GDP is nothing, it's peanuts. The creative genius of the people is so high that we are actually wasting resources, right? In a traditional industry, when we say that the total number of people who are working in this country is 550 million people, right? And if we are not using that many people, then we say we are wasting our resources, right? Now, think of it this way. If the creative potential of the people is being used only to the extent of 5 to 6%, just think of how much of the resources you are actually just wasting away, right? Which can be converted into wealth. So I think we need to promote this idea of creative enterprise, social enterprises, creative enterprises, wealth creation strategies, and maybe there should be more seminars, conferences to discuss how these things can be done. And I think that will get people to begin to think. And I think we need to start thinking about creating strategies which will have sort of a domino effect, that the one brick falls and then all the bricks begin to fall one after the other. We need to have that kind of a culture that we need to create to promote creative enterprises and their contribution to the overall GDP. Thank you so much. I hope it helps.
Thank you so much, sir. And as usual, you have left us with lots of thoughts to ponder. Create a culture where there is an interlink of creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship, as there is a phenomenal untapped potential in creative industries. And how can we increase the share in the overall creation of wealth in the world? That's something which we really have to look into. Thank you so much. Joining us now is another keynote speaker all the way from Belgium, Miss Anna Borschok. Miss Anna Borschok, a warm welcome and thank you for taking out time and connecting with us here. So the area which is little unsaid she will be talking on how creative entrepreneurship helps in women empowerment. So Ms. Anna Borschok is the founder and of Femalepreneurs and Investors Club, which is a driving female entrepreneurship for financial freedom in Belgium and Europe. Fearless Female Founders is a growing community and an academy for women with an ambition to achieve their dreams of building businesses based on who they really are. So over to you, Anna.
Thank you so much, Monica. I'm really honored to be a part of this summit, and I'm really excited that it is about cooperation between Uzbekistan and India, plus Belgium included, because I am originally from Uzbekistan and I share a lot of passion for fabrics, Indian fabrics and Uzbek fabrics. And in fact, I'm wearing ikat shirt, which was made by my brand, and I will probably mention that a little bit later. There are really potent speakers, so I'm really honored to be among you. It was really interesting to listen to Dr. Kamalesh Mishra and what he said about moving away from socialist thinking. I can so much relate to it because I was born during the Soviet Union, and I still carry that mentality of doing everything for free for everyone. This is not what entrepreneurship is. But I want to talk from the perspective of an entrepreneur, which I haven't been for many years. I've been in the corporate environment for more than 15 years. My main expertise, let's say, lays in digital marketing. I'm a digital strategist, and my career in digital strategy has started in Google in Ireland, where I worked for more than 4 years, and it was a really good school of creativity, let's say, because I was working with a lot of large brands and was observing how they use creativity to grow. So I want to bring the link, of what Dr. Kamalesh Mishra was talking about, and how I was becoming an entrepreneur, and how we need to change the mentality of people to have more entrepreneurs, first of all, because we need to first have entrepreneurs, and then we need to have creative entrepreneurs. From my own experience, because I started to be an entrepreneur only in Belgium. So from Google I worked in Microsoft as well, in very large corporations, and then moved to smaller agencies. And then I have realized that I have been in the wrong place for many, many years. And I can see in my community of women that there are a lot of women are in that place. They're doing the job they're not good at. They're doing the job that they don't like, but they don't know how to make a shift into entrepreneurship. And this is the first thing we need to change on the level of the government and on the level of self-education, let's say, how to know the self. And when I was thinking about what I'm going to talk about during this summit, I actually came up with a triangle of creative entrepreneurship. And there are 3 elements in there. The first one is knowing yourself. It was a long journey for me, because in our education, especially in the socialism, you are taught not to know yourself. You are more about serving others, about getting that amazing job in the corporate environment. Well, first of all, get a very good education, get into the corporate job, and be a good girl and get a good salary. And this was my journey, and this is the journey of a lot of women in my community that I see, but I don't see a lot of happiness going on. And the problem that comes out of that is that people don't know who they really are and what they really like. And this is where creativity is suppressed. So the first point of the triangle is knowing yourself. And there are a lot of books and tests about that. There is a book called Strength Finder. There is 16 personalities test. So those kind of things I think should be used in early education to help children to understand what they really like, what are their strengths. Because during the corporate world, I was always pushed to do what I'm bad at. You know, all the managers were focusing on my weaknesses. They're like, okay, you're weak here. Why don't you improve there? And I was thinking that I'm just not a good expert or specialist because I was focusing on the wrong things. So once I understood that and I started to shift into knowing myself, I started to understand what I really want, building the community of female founders or female entrepreneurs, inspiring those women to go for their dreams. But first of all, understanding what are those dreams, because they don't even know. This is the amazing thing, that most of people don't even know who they are and what their dreams are. The second point of the triangle is a creative awareness. So working in Google for many years and then working with a lot of brands and companies that are building and developing their businesses, I have noticed one thing. People focus a lot on the components of digital strategy, like marketing, promotion, email marketing, social networks, and so on and so forth. But one most important component they forget to focus on is a creative concept. You can't imagine how many businesses forget that. And this is kind of the core of the business. This is how you excite people about your product. So what is creative awareness? I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. I don't know if you heard about him. I've been to a lot of programs of Tony Robbins, and one of the quotes that he has, it changed my life. And it says that the quality of your life depends on the quality of questions you ask yourself on a daily basis. And when we think about creativity, this is the question I try to ask myself when I work on my businesses, because I like to call myself multipreneur, because I have the ikat brand, which is called Silk and Cotton, which I also try to keep creative. And the creative concept is about connecting Asia with Europe in a modern way. So we take the traditions of all the cat. So it's fabric that goes back like centuries and centuries back. So we take that the cat, we bring it to Europe, and we make modern garments out of it. So I also organize yacht tours. I have the female community. I invest in stocks. What else? Yeah, and I'm a digital strategist as well. So I have a lot of different activities that actually help me to be creative, because I'm so excited about all those things. And before, when I was studying and learning, I was told you have to choose only one thing and you have to put all your focus into it. And I was suffering all my life trying to do that. And I'm 40, only at around 38, I started to realize that you don't need to focus on one thing if you are not that kind of personality. So this is what I'm trying to bring forward to women I work with. And what how I reach my creativity and how I inspire creativity in women in my community is that I'm showing my vulnerability. And this is what we are missing in current society. We see so many ads in social networks that are telling us, I've become a millionaire within 3 months. Follow me, you will be a millionaire as well in 3 months. And this is such a misconception. And working with women for now almost 4 years, I still have a lot of them coming to me and asking, look, I have this brilliant business idea. Shall I quit my job? And I am asking them, okay, do you have a financial security pillow that will support you while you're building your business? And they're, but I will start generating money like in 3 months. And this is the biggest misconception ever. We are flashed with it every day, that you can become a millionaire within 3 months. So I think this is an important part of education and sharing your stories that people would understand that business is not built in 3 months, and not in a year, and not sometimes in 3 or 4 until you even get it to break-even point. So one of the creative things that we did in our community is that we started having networking events with purpose. This is what they are called, networking events with purpose. What we do, we don't just meet to talk about anything. We meet to discuss the bottlenecks. So let's say we have 15 minutes. So this is one of the meetings that we had, by the way, before COVID. So we meet with these women, and each woman shares what is the bottleneck towards the next step in her business. And you cannot imagine what kind of stories you can hear. And all of a sudden, those people who are meeting, they understand that they are not alone on their difficult journey. Because everyone thinks, looking at the social networks of how other people perform, they're like, oh my God, they're so good and I'm so bad. And there is a lot of stress and even depression coming out of that, because there are no real stories out there. But okay, I'm talking a lot. I know it's like give a microphone to a woman and it will be very difficult to take it away. I will only tell about the last point of the creativity triangle, and I called it risking and testing. So again, coming to this socialism mentality, people are not accustomed still, from those that era, they're not accustomed to taking risks. And this is what I have learned through my entrepreneurial journey, that people try to develop a perfect concept for a long period of time, and then they launch it, it doesn't work, and they think that's it. I did it wrong. But the reality is you need to test and try so many concepts before you get it working. And this is the last part of the triangle that I'm really trying to promote among my community. It's like, stop doing the paralysis of analysis and go and do it. And then it's important that there are people like me, and I'm glad there are a lot of more people appearing who start communities like this, who are sharing the experience of real people. Because in Belgium, sorry, I think I lost the screen here. So there are a lot in Belgium to start businesses is not an easy task, I can tell you. The taxes are really, really high. In fact, my first attempt to be an entrepreneur in Belgium has failed because I didn't take time to understand the bureaucracy around starting your business. And you can imagine that in Belgium, so when you start your business, they tell you straight away, okay, you will have to pay 700 or like around 700 euro per quarter for social contributions. And you're like, but I'm not earning money yet. Like, where do I get those money? So sharing that information with other people and preparing them mentally will really help them in creativity. Because why did I fail for the first time? How can you be creative when you have huge bill in your post box? And every time I was approaching post box, my hands were shaking because I was afraid of getting another bill. Now, when I understood how it all works, I'm actually happy that I'm getting the bills because I can expense them, right? But a lot of people don't understand them. So having communities like this is really important. And then another important thing is of course that governments, they do educate the population as well, and they promote entrepreneurship. Because what are we taught at schools? Go get a job, be a good girl, work in the corporate world? That should be changed. Thank you so much for listening. I will be very happy to connect with anyone. My name is Anna Barashok. I think you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. You can reach out to me, and if you have any questions, if you want to have connections with Belgium and Uzbekistan, learn about our clothing brand and our experience as well, how we were bridging Uzbekistan with Belgium, because it's also quite a story. reach out to me. I will be happy to connect. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna, and indeed a pleasure, and congratulations on such a remarkable and a noble job which you are doing in Belgium for all the women out there. And the way you have spoken, and bringing these real life challenges into the forefront and helping them through all the social taboos and the barricades, I think it is very, very important. Um, so congratulations once again. Not taking much time, we have amongst us His Excellency Ambassador Manish Prabhatji. Manish Prabhatji is Ambassador of India to Uzbekistan. He assumed charge as Ambassador of India to Uzbekistan on 24th September 2020. Prior to he headed the Eurasia Division in the Ministry of External Affairs, New Delhi, India. Manish Prabhatji is a career diplomat who has served in the Ministry of External Affairs and in India's mission abroad in Moscow, Washington, D.C., Milan, and Paris. May I now request His Excellency Ambassador Manish Prabhatji to address the August gathering here. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Professor Walia, Dean School of Creativity, Rishihood University, for inviting me to this very special program. I thank Professor Dr. Sanjeev Chaturvedi, the Director of the Entrepreneurship Development Center in the joint India-Uzbekistan Entrepreneurship Development Center, which is functioning out of the Uzbek Chambers of Commerce and Industry in Tashkent. And I'm very happy that after the opening of the Entrepreneurship Development Center in Tashkent, we are having a variety of such programs. We are connecting with a lot of people, a lot of professionals who are spread around in Uzbekistan, in India, and indeed around the globe. And we are talking on different topics which are very interesting, and of course it can provide huge insight to all the people who are listening in, and the entrepreneurs of Uzbekistan, in the regions of Uzbekistan, not only in Tashkent. And it is proving to be very successful, very useful. I would like to begin with by saying that uh, creativity, of course, runs in the blood of Uzbekistan, let us say, because everywhere you go in Uzbekistan, and I've been here for about 6 months now, in Tashkent and in the regions wherever I have visited, in Dizak, in Surkhandaria, in Samarkand, in Bukhara, Urgench, everywhere, you see a wide variety of local products. Now, many of these products are for tourists, and of course, if you go to a good tourist site, there are many in Uzbekistan. Of course, you will find very creative, handicraft items, pottery, dresses, the textile, the women's, necklaces and everything. And you name it, caps, hats, etc. And a variety of food items, and all this is part of creativity, which is there, coming there from centuries. And you can very well say that here is a country, a very old civilization, which has preserved its ancient traditions and people's handicraft. And the handicrafts actually they have the story of creativity behind them, and which has something to offer to the world. And this is the same for my country, India, where in different states, different regions, in different geographical regions of India, there are a variety of traditional handicrafts and even cultural things like stories to tell, and written pieces of creativity, intangible heritage, what UNESCO says that you cannot really put them to paper, but this is how things are done. And both India and Uzbekistan have a lot of similarity in this field. And in fact, throughout centuries, both India and Uzbekistan have had a great influence on each other, because they have throughout interacted in history. There was a constant exchange for more than 2,200 years between India and Uzbekistan, where people of India and people of Uzbekistan have known each other, have learned from each other, have influenced each other. When I went to Termiz, which is the border of Uzbekistan and Afghanistan, you can see 2,000-year-old Buddhist monasteries, which have been found by archaeologists, and very nice fragments of paintings and murals on the wall, which have been preserved. Very, very creative and very beautiful pieces of, very exquisite pieces of, statues of Buddha, Bodhisattva, even of common people, pottery, etc., have been discovered. They have all been nicely preserved in museums there in Termiz or in Tashkent. You go to places like Bukhara, Khiva, Kokan, and all these medieval khanates, and emirs, and Babur went to India, and we have the whole Mughal dynasty and the creative things spread all over India. When you see Taj Mahal, it reminds you of of course, it is in Agra and reminds you of the grandeur which was there in Samarkand and all that. So there are plenty of things which Uzbekistan already has, and this piece of creativity of people of Uzbekistan needs to be further taken forward. Just like my previous speaker was saying that the people could be creative. Sometimes you don't even know that what creativity you hold inside, and you need to find channels in how you take it forward. Now, of course, this part, I'm very clear that Uzbek people are really creative people. Women probably more, because you see, if you go into the history of handicrafts, etc., mostly these things started as domestic production, not even in the sense of any commercial production for for others. Before others, it was for self, and it was in the homes. Mostly women did it, and they then they developed it on large scale. We can also say that when it came to commercial scale, men just took it away, and so entrepreneurs were more men and probably less women in history, and we need to correct it now. When we had not long back, under the platform of India Uzbekistan Entrepreneurship Development Center, we had a seminar on women empowerment, and there were speakers from India, Uzbekistan, and other places, and we were saying that how these things need to be channelized. That women have ideas, they are creative, and they need a push, basically, an enabling environment in everywhere, not only in Uzbekistan, so that their entrepreneurial capacity comes forward and it is facilitated. Uh, Precisely, this was the idea, and I would remind you that I think probably it was 2 years back that Uzbekistan had the year of entrepreneurship, and in that year, it was declared by the president of Uzbekistan. In that year, we decided that India Uzbekistan Entrepreneurship Development Center would be opened in Tashkent. There was a soft opening, I think, towards the end of 2018. And today we have a full-fledged director of the center who came from India. There is IT equipment, etc., which all came from India. And very nicely with the local team in the Chamber of Commerce, they have been going out and meeting people, and creating a lot of opportunities by having entrepreneurship programs and talking to people. So when we merge creativity and entrepreneurship, you get a business proposition which really then pays you back. The more successful you are, it empowers you and brings out your value as an individual in the society. So you take your rightful place, and of course that has been the process all along, and the thinking of the governments in India and Uzbekistan, that how to bring out the entrepreneurial spirit of your people. We understand that even just the traditional education, the 3 R's, etc., are not enough. In this world, you need to think in new ways and take your creativity on an entrepreneurial plane. In fact, let me also remind you that the Delhi government in India, the Delhi government, the state of Delhi, they have now started with the special course on entrepreneurship at the school level. So, it is now widely being recognized that there's a special course on entrepreneurship which needs to be taught to our, to children, our schools, in our colleges. And, it is probably just not enough to know about, pure sciences or pure social sciences, but, how you use that knowledge, in a sense that it also makes a business sense, so that, you can also generate, employment and opportunities for yourself. In fact, this is one of the challenges, also of women empowerment. When I had met some time back Her Excellency Miss Tanzila Norbayeva, she is the chairperson of the Senate of Uzbekistan, and she is very, very concerned and very, active on all the women's issues. And she also told me that, the women empowerment is one thing which, on which we are constantly working in Uzbekistan. And she said that, on the gender issues, the issues of gender equality, etc., let there be more, creative collaboration between India and Uzbekistan, because not much has been done between these two countries in this particular sphere. And, I am happy that today this seminar is taking place. I can say, probably I can tell Her Excellency Norbayeva that here Rishihood University created a special program which is exactly, working in the same direction, bringing India and Uzbekistan together, working on empowerment, entrepreneurship, creativity, and in which women from both sides are involved in a big way. And of course, women from all around globe can be involved, and that would be very good. In fact, we should try to see that, whether there could be small groups of women in regions, in villages of Uzbekistan, who can be given, appropriate environment and opportunity, maybe financing also. Of course, financing is needed, to channelize their creative spirit into entrepreneurship. Let me also say that, all of the great traditions of Uzbekistan, I mean, you can find similar things in India, and which shows that, in history we would have really interacted with each other. The tradition of ikat and silk, and so many other things, even pottery, papier mâché, which is done in Kashmir, probably went from here, and that kind of thing. So we have been doing this all along in the ages. For example, a very few concrete examples, which I can bring out from my experience here as from the Embassy of India. That we run a cultural center in Tashkent, the Indian Cultural Center, which is named after the late Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri, who had unfortunately passed away in Tashkent in 1966. So this cultural center is named after him. And this culture center has now, completed 25 years of its existence in Uzbekistan. Now, here we are teaching in our culture center yoga, the study of Hindi language, Indian classical dances like Kathak, and of course, tabla, which is the Indian percussion instrument. And you will be amazed to see that, how many Uzbek students come to this cultural center, and how popular these things are. And we have numbers going in thousands. Every 6 months there is new registration, and people come and do it with great respect and with great seriousness. And it is thanks to the creativity, the innate creativity of the Uzbek people, that they have picked it up very well. Today there are students of the Lal Bahadur Shastri Center for Indian Culture, the yoga students, who have now gone and opened their own yoga studios in Uzbekistan, in Tashkent, and they are, taking lessons, on a commercial scale, and a lot of people come there. This is purely, a kind of example of how creativity becomes entrepreneurial, because these people, learned yoga, they picked up. It's an ancient Indian science. Of course, it belongs to all humanity, and it's still, they could, pick up, the essential things of yoga. Of course, you can never say that you have become a master of yoga, because the real masters of yoga have, practiced yoga throughout their life, and they keep discovering new advantages, or new kinds of meanings in yoga. So one can never say that you have practically mastered yoga, but people have practiced and mastered it in a very small time. They've created their own studios. Indian films and dances are so popular in Uzbekistan that many times you would see Uzbek dancers, dancing to Hindi film music, and they do it so well. They are even better than what Indians can do, basically. And last very a couple of months back, I was invited to a very popular Uzbek television program. It's called the Hindi Show. It's called Hindi Show, on Milli TV, and they were doing their annual awards program, etc. Now, when I went there, I could understand that it's a competition. So a group of people would be given a situation from a Hindi movie, and they would actually see that and copy exactly the same dance, and then who does it better. And the way they recreated the whole studio environment of a Hindi film music, which is remarkable. That, to reproduce it in India, from India in Uzbekistan, with all the costumes and the backdrop, and it's not only costume for the heroine, you need costume for heroine's mother also, who is sitting in the dance performance, or probably others. So you can understand the complexity of all this. And thanks to the creative producers of this TV show, and the actors, they're not even actors, they are common people of everyday life, and the way they practiced and they work hard and how they do it, and they're producing a TV program, which is very popular on television screens in Uzbekistan. They bring ad revenues, and of course it goes into it goes into the business, basically. I mean, that they're creating something out of it. I'm sure that I'm not an expert who can really say that what Uzbek people need to do. I'm just saying that there are plenty of opportunities in Uzbekistan. Of course, we're all hit by pandemic and these times, but there is enough if people see around themselves. And as my previous speaker also said, that try to understand yourself. So there are enough opportunities which you will find in your own homes, in regions. Probably by forming groups, you can come together and create something out of it. You all need a very small kind of push, help from government. Of course, I cannot deny that, because there's some kind of help required in environment, in financing, in promoting creativity and entrepreneurship. And I would like to say that even the Prime Minister of India these days says that we should be vocal for local. You have to be vocal for local. So and this is one of the mantras of the self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, which he has been speaking about of late, because the pandemic showed that you cannot always rely just on global supply chains. You are producing something in your country, part of it is coming from outside, some other country, or maybe you are totally dependent upon imports from other countries. But the COVID-19 pandemic showed that you have to become self-reliant, because there's no guarantee that in times of pandemic, what is going to stop, and you will be left without that thing for many months. Which was a very hard lesson for many countries, especially the small countries were hit hard. And so the Prime Minister said that we should be vocal for local, promote local purchases, promote local people, promote local artisans to produce something. And when we really looked around in India, we really saw that so many things we could produce locally, which we were unnecessarily importing from outside. It is not required. I mean, of course, there is a kind of networking in international trade, of course, is needed. I am not denying that. But of course, there's so many things which you can do it locally. It's purely that we have not paid attention to that. So I think that creativity to be channelized into entrepreneurship is the need for the moment. And vocal for local is the need for the hour, not only in India, also in Uzbekistan. Let me end on that note and wish all of you a very happy Navroz, which is coming just in a couple of days, which is the great festival of spring. The festival has been there for maybe 5,000 years, and it is closely followed by the festival of Holi in India, which is also the festival of spring, and in which you put colors on each other, basically to express joy and happiness and the coming of the spring. That also shows that how India and Uzbekistan have been connecting with each other throughout history. And so I'm very happy that today I got a chance to speak at this seminar just on the eve of Nowruz and Holi, and that really lifts our spirit. And let's hope that this year will be better than the last year, and we would all make progress in a certain, positive and good direction. Thank you very much. Thank you, all the participants.
Thank you so much, sir. And indeed, it is a pleasure listening to all the dynamism of creativity and innovation which is happening, and you are promoting it. There is enormous synergy between both the countries, and with all your guidance and support, we would like to take that forward. On that note, let us be a little more innovative. Amongst us is our Chief Innovating Officer, Professor Ravinder Pal Singh, who will be talking on how entrepreneurial creativity leads to innovation. I welcome Professor Ravinder Pal Singh ji. Professor Ravinder Pal Singh is a Harvard alumnus, award winning technologist, rescue pilot, angel investor, and a global speaker with several hundred global recognitions and patents. His body of work, mostly first in the world, is making difference within acute constraints of culture and cash via commodity technology. He has been acknowledged as the world's top 10 robotic designers, artificial intelligence leader in Asia, and the world's top 25 CIOs. Raviji is active in India, the USA, Singapore, Scotland, Mexico, and Africa through advisory, co creation, hackathons, and innovation funding to create mass entrepreneurship at grassroots across rural towns and cities. So I welcome you, Professor Ravinder Pal Singh ji. Over to you.
Thank you for having me. I'm just an engineer who builds things. And when engineers are 45 years old, they attempt to teach and in a disguise of learning from students. And the passion is to ensure that some of these students will become entrepreneurs, and they will become rock stars, and they will try to bring remarkable change in this particular world. Look, I'm just going to take 10-15 minutes, and I don't know much about Uzbekistan, so I read about Uzbekistan, remarkable country, and some of the things while I was reading, makes a lot of sense for this particular platform. So let me just back up, and I will tell you how I spend my 11 hours. I basically talk to at least 7 founders daily, and 4 teachers daily. And why not 7 teachers, 4 founders? We'll come to that later on. But all these 7 founders are young, PhD scholars. Some of them, even undergraduates. And they're remarkable in a way that, for example, if I basically explain you how my day was, I actually spent roughly about 45 minutes with 3 PhD scholars out of Indian Institute of Science who are trying to build a constellation of satellites which will help in terms of removing obstacles for future traffic, which is going to happen in space. 3 students, never being entrepreneurs, all 3 from middle class, all PhD students, all studied in India, and remarkable dream. But it's not only a dream. What they have done is they have basically found customers in Germany, and they have outsourced satellite manufacturing out of UK, a small firm near Norwich in UK. And they are heavily supported by ISRO and Government of India, including Prime Minister's office. So on one hand, it is this. On other hand, my third meeting was with this kid. He's studying in 6th semester in one of the engineering colleges of India, and he's trying to create a headphone which can actually translate signals which is coming from brain into actual actions. Now, if that happens, then really Samsung and Google's have to really worry about that, including Apple. A third one basically comes from this was my 6th meeting, which came again from 2 people, from extremely small town, which I call as there are 2 parts of India, by the way, I'm pretty new to India and I'm trying to understand my own country. But what I see is that one is India, other is Bharat. So these guys come from Bharat, not from India. And what they are trying to do, they are trying to solve a problem of chronic diseases and diagnostic of chronic disease, especially in an age group which is above 38 years old. So this is how now why professors? Most professors around the world, and few of them are Nobel laureates, not one of them, and that's the only advantage which I get out of using the word Harvard. They are also trying to understand that how world will change and why everyone is saying that innovation will fuel entrepreneurship, innovation will fuel political leadership, innovation will fuel industrial 4.0 revolution or something like that. And hence I meet just 4 professors or teachers and seven entrepreneurs, because strange thing is happening in this world where entrepreneurships or these rock stars whom I say, they are basically asking questions, and they are basically telling teachers that, look, time has come when we have to change our philosophy from teaching to learning. If we basically see last 300 years of how education was consumed, it was through teaching, and now maybe time has come that it should focus on learning than on teaching. So having said so something about Uzbekistan, remarkable country, remarkable country, and here it is why it is remarkable. Few facts which are awesome facts. Okay. 34% of population of Uzbekistan is under 14 years. Okay, literacy is 99%. Okay, so something right has you guys have done, which we should do it in India. Okay, 99% literacy, very very young population. So the infrastructure or the base of Uzbekistan is rock solid. If that is the case, then why patents are not coming, research and development is not happening in Uzbekistan, institutions are not getting created in Uzbekistan, and that is something where a remarkable handshake can happen between India and Uzbekistan. Okay, where we can learn from Uzbekistan how to basically create this literacy infrastructure. And what we can do is, especially in space and technology, robotics, industrial 4.0, and including the funding part of it, which was mentioned, and that's where I see a very very good handshake. Now, how this handshake will happen? Look, few things have to change, and everyone is struggling, with that. Whether it is Indian Institute of Science, whether it is Stanford, whether it's California Institute of Technology, whether it's Harvard, or so on and so forth. One, as I've said, cycle time for anyone to get educated and convert that particular education in a very creative way to something which actually solves a big problem, has to happen. And that's where successful entrepreneurship will get. I'll give you some examples, and that's why I'm bullish about India, and I'll speak a little bit about my own country, India. Prediction of diseases, specifically in the zone of cancer, or in a zone of malnutrition, or in a zone of anything which is related to female, right from hygiene to anything healthcare, has to come either from India or from Africa. Now, focus is more towards India because problems are acute, they are dense, and they are severe. And also, there is a reasonable intellect and research and development in India which can solve that. Now, if India is able to solve that particular problem, that company or that organization can basically be world leaders. Similarly, ecosystems which will happen in the era of compute. Two facts I will share. I don't prepare my lecture, so my thoughts are unstructured. Sorry, but two things. If you look at remarkable things which are happening in this particular world, the cost of compute is remarkably coming down. When I was doing my engineering, the cost of compute at that particular time versus cost of compute which is happening today, is actually not 1,000. It is actually somewhere like a millionth of what was there when compute was in the custody of large corporates like General Electric or IBM or Unisys or HP and all that stuff. Now, how can we utilize that particular compute to solve problems, and why it is not happening? One of the reasons why it is not happening, because if you look at and I'm again focusing on India, if you actually look at India, penetration of creation, and if you just fuse that with innovation, is not trickling down to what I say Bharat. Okay, if you actually see education system in Bharat, it is very, very mundane in nature. It lacks creativity. It doesn't encourages people to basically create and solve local problems. Funding actually doesn't reaches them because there are a lot of opportunities, in India per se, and it doesn't trickles down to that particular level. And most solutions which are actually coming in India, they are basically in the zone which I call as a zone of West, which basically replicate a Western model of capitalism onto India, and then that's get replicated. And neither I call that as creativity. I call that jugaad, and I don't worship jugaad as a word. I have never worshipped jugaad as a word. Now, how can we change that? One of the ways of changing that is, of course, Rishihood platform. I'm quite new to Rishihood, but I was fascinated by the concept of Rishihood, is to understand problems which are local problems, but which can be scalable from a global perspective. And one of the methods of doing that is basically to understand from Uzbekistan that how they have actually solved their problem and build their literacy in spite of such a young population, 100%, and also collaborate with Uzbekistan that whatever R&D is happening, can we basically do some tie-ups with you? Can we do some collaborations with you? And can we create marketplaces, in your country? And those marketplaces, are mutually beneficial. For example, the intellectual property can come from India, whereas sourcing can be yours. So while Uzbekistan as a country has got a very, very clear agenda, and I read about government's agenda over there in terms of making innovation as a key strategic pillar for job creation, for creating higher schools of learning, higher universities, and research and development being key over there. It's a long journey. It's a very, very long journey. But if that journey doesn't translate into entrepreneurship, then it's a journey which is a very, very expensive journey. Okay, and then a lot of questions are asked. I think that kind of collaboration is an extremely sweet spot where Indian, school education system, primary education system, child, welfare and healthcare, they basically learn from Uzbekistan. And whereas we basically transfer this immense knowledge and immense capability and immense infrastructure of research and development and higher education, which is rare, ranging from space to physics and nuclear studies and so on and so forth into this. So that's the other message which I want to translate. Lastly, which I want to say, which is common across the globe, and always mention it. There are few issues where all of us have to come together, as in academia, and from the fraternity of industries or of industrial nations. One is rare dependency of everything what we do, right from creating machines, mixer and grinders, to aircraft engines, dependency on rare earth metals. I think that together, we have to do, and as many countries as can come, and we need to teach our students why it is important. Climate tech is something which we need to make almost as a part of our primary education, but very important to teach in universities. And third, let us not restrict creativity and innovation in the realms of what we call as fine arts or anything, or design. Creativity is extremely important, right from the perspective of policy making. How does government of India solves this problem of crypto economy, where different forces within government, they are basically have their different debates. So how do you creatively solve that? To the point, how do you do process innovation? How can you feed so many Indians? How can you educate so many Indians? How can you create so many entrepreneurship? Look, GDP of India, a very small percentage of GDP of India will come from big organizations of big groups like Tata's or something like that. Small and medium enterprises in India are struggling because they neither have a technical know-how nor have that kind of funding. Indian population is becoming younger and younger, and they are highly aspirant. Giving them jobs in government is not a solution. So mass entrepreneurship is the only way out. And mass entrepreneurship, wherever it has been successful, whether it is West or whether it is on the Eastern side, academic and research and research conviction oriented universities have played a very, very important role. So that's what I think as an engineer, as a venture capitalist, and as a professor, we need to do together. Thanks for listening to me. I hope I made sense. Sorry, I don't write my lectures, so I just listen what is the topic, and I try to reflect on that. But thank you for having me. Thank you, Professor Walia.
Thank you so much, Professor Ravi. And indeed, of course, you made complete sense, and you have given us a new dimension to think about. I mean, creativity is not only restricted to, the traditional ways of art and performing arts and visual arts and design. It is beyond, So again, what you rightly said, that there is a fine line between Bharat and India, and how beautifully you have differentiated that one has to be creative enough that, we address the local problems, and then we should be in a position to scale at the global level. And the journey which can be achieved has to be translated into entrepreneurship. So thank you for sharing your views. May I now ask Dr. Sanjeev to address the few questions which the Uzbekistan audience have for us. Dr. Sanjeev.
Yeah, thank you, Manika. As in the starting, I mentioned that we have regional offices across Uzbekistan, and many participants are listening to us, attending this session. So there are two questions. First is for Anna, because I think they could relate to her more confidently. So the question is by one of the women entrepreneur that since you know Uzbekistan also, and also now settled in Belgium, how do you think is the financial funding of projects started by a woman? If you can throw that, is it difficult to start a project or a company there, or it is okay if compared to Uzbekistan?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. It is a really good question. I'm not sure I can answer that because I don't live in Uzbekistan for more than 15 years now. Saying that though, I do have connections with the embassy of Uzbekistan in Benelux. We organize regular webinars for empowering women in Uzbekistan. I don't know about any particular programs that fund women, but I can ask. So I don't want to confuse anyone by saying that they exist and they fund women. Probably they do, but I don't have information about that. But I can get it.
Okay, thank you. And I think second question can go to Mr. Ravi also, that innovation is there, but how to scale it or make it usable for masses? That is the second question which I have received from one of my region office. So this is my last question to Ravi. Thank you.
Look, if there is a particular example, I think innovation actually solves scalability problem, and I can give examples. For example, I'll put my credibility on the table. when COVID really happened, if you actually looked, if you have tracked prices of respiratory systems, any kind of respiratory system, right from ventilator to oxygen providers and all the stuff, they were in the range of some of them were in the range of 18 lakh rupees, some of them were 30 lakhs and all that stuff, right? There's nothing great about that tech per se. It is just a supply demand situation and ability to manufacture it, right? How can innovation solve it? Innovation is not a word which needs to be worshipped. It has to be just practiced. It is as simple as that. So what I did, I apparently was talking to one of the professors at MIT, and he basically said that, look, we are struggling with multiple ventilators. It is expensive. It takes a lot of time to build and all the stuff. Why can't we basically build ventilators based on OMBI bags? Now, that's not the right way of doing it, but at least it gives you fuel for thinking. So first thing of innovation, when you try to build something, think at least from the perspective of solving a problem. So then I thought that, look, let me just solve this particular problem by doing two things. First, everything has to be locally produced, and it has to be manufactured locally. That means not an IITian is required to solve to build this. An ITI guy can be able to build that. So I built this particular design, made it modular, and then start evangelizing it. To answer your question, if innovation has got two aspects, and just I wanted to bring that aspect. One, if a person has got ability to evangelize, that means he's honest and he's giving in nature, in a sense that whatever he has built, he is not going to basically patent it, make it IP or something like that. And if he's willing to let it go, then scalability is never an issue. Second thing is that if he has got a capability to use local parts and local technicians and local workers to build anything, then local funding doesn't takes much time, and for that you don't have to basically find funding either from state government or central government or something like that. Some sari wala, some mithai wala, or some mill wala will come over there and give you that funding, and you can actually become a large entrepreneur. Is that innovative? Well, today I think that is innovative, because everyone runs for angel investor and VC. According to me, it can be just a common sense. So innovation for scalability is not something, Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Ravi, and thank you, Anna. Over to you, Manika.
Thank you, Sanjeevji. Sanjeevji, there's one more question which we have received on the live channel, and it says that, and this is addressed to the Ambassador Manishji. It says, does Uzbekistan welcome startups from India? If so, then any specific program by Uzbek government? Manishji.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Of course, startups are welcome in Uzbekistan, though of course I cannot speak on behalf of Uzbek government, but I understand and I know that government of Uzbekistan is trying to promote the whole IT environment, startups and innovation. Of course, the first thing to start there is to build up, update the curriculum of engineering, IT studies, information technology, etc. And for that, the work is already going on in various Uzbek universities. So much so that even the first IT park of Uzbekistan, which was opened in Tashkent last year, was created with the technical assistance from India, in the sense that the guide and mentor of the IT park in Tashkent was brought to Tashkent from software technology parks of India. And after that, after the opening of the IT park in Tashkent, more IT parks this person has helped to be created in other parts of Uzbekistan, including in Zizak, about a couple of months back, which was inaugurated there. I was also there. Now, the local youth and local talent is also, the IT park has tied up with local universities, and part of education, part of curriculum, it is also there to spend time in IT park, bring their ideas there, and there are some incubators who are trying to develop these ideas. And of course, the whole environment has to be created in Uzbekistan. I mean, that something is there. Of course, it needs to be scaled up, and more people with knowledge need to be brought in, who would help the local youth basically. And in fact, under the platform of Shanghai Cooperation Organization also, of which India is a member and Uzbekistan is also a member. India has not long back even held a SEO startup event in which we had probably 20 plus entries from Uzbekistan. So, I mean that, India is doing its own, the best in which we can promote startups in Uzbekistan. And in fact, if there are startup ideas outside, I think that, the IT parks in Uzbekistan would be very happy to meet with such people online and probably take these ideas forward. And I think that, then because even from very beginning, a lot of digitization of services are to be done in Uzbekistan. It is being done. They are in initial stages, and I think that here you would say sky is the limit, because they have just started doing a lot of things. So I think all such ideas probably really be welcomed by government of Uzbekistan, and I think that the Entrepreneurship Development Center, Dr. Sanjeev Chaturvedi is there, would also help us find relevant partners to connect with these people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So, though the time is ticking and it's the time to close the day, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to each of the guests, speakers, and the audience. So now, as we now come to the end of this successful summit, to summarize, I look forward to the cross-cultural collaborative projects to promote dynamism of creativity and innovation between both the countries, to create productivity and opportunities for startups, to create employment and entrepreneurship for women in Uzbekistan and India, and also to develop centers where skills and knowledge could be provided. Henceforth, creating and developing game-changing opportunities for the craftsmen and artisans, and as rightly said by Professor Ravinder, at the local grassroots level for both the countries. With the support of IUEDC and Ambassador of India to Uzbekistan, I thank all of the esteemed guests, speakers, and audiences. Thank you once again and have a lovely good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.